I think we are. Yes. Okay. Hello, everybody. Give me 5 5 so that you will see me. We should be live now. Give me 5 5. Oh shit! That you will see me. Where's that coming from? We should be live now. Give me 5 5. Oh shit! Who's that? Is that it? One of you?
Not me.
No, I don't think so.
Who's that? Is that it? One of you?
I hate it when it does that.
I know, and I don't have any streams on. Twitch is 5 5. YouTube is 5 5. Good, great. Let me see, because clearly it didn't go live on the stream that I made on YouTube. Therefore, if I'm not there live, then you guys have to move to another one. And I don't see it going live. Sorry. Oh, there. Right. Okay, we're in. It's good. So we're here today. Hello, everybody. Sorry for that little delay there. And let me see who is there. Is there still an echo?
Nope, sounds good.
No. So, hey, Thumper Rose, good to see you. Detox with Tessa, Trina Clark, and let me see, Dream State Wonders, good to see you, Chef Matt, and happy to be here today with the brothers, Uncensored, Ellen and Joe, Abe and Joe. There you go. And yeah, I met actually Abe on 5 by 5, I remember. And then all of a sudden I was watching you guys and I was like, wait a minute, there's two of them. And I didn't know. And yeah, it's good to see you both. And how are you?
Doing good. Happy to be here. Thanks for having us. Yeah, it was it's fun because we've all been working, very hard on just getting content out there, and it's weird how we always kind of, crossed paths in other ways, and it's great to be here with you guys and your awesome audience. I know you guys have a great audience out there as well. See some familiar faces out there. Brooklyn Way is over there in the house. Looks like, yeah, you might have to YouTube, but you might have to go into your studio and cancel one of the streams and then pull up the other one. Right. That might be the issue on YouTube. Illuminated Patriots out there as well as Metaplated. Sean Joe, what's up, bud? And Leah's out there as well as Detox with Tessa. Much love. God bless you all. Thanks for joining us here today. It's great to be here with my bro Joe in the house as well.
Yeah, yes. That's so funny that you said that, Patricia. If you watched our stream earlier, we had JR Majewski on, and I met him in DC. It was like this lead up to be able to meet JR. And then when I finally actually met him, he goes, "Wait, you're real?" Yeah. Because nobody really knew that Abe had a brother, much less that we kind of look alike a little bit, so nobody really knew it until he actually physically saw me. At that point, he's like, "Wow, you are real. That's crazy." So yeah, we've been doing a show now, I guess. The Brothers Uncensored. Has it been about a year now, or over a year now, I guess? Hasn't it been, Abe?
Yeah, we've had that going for about a year, a little over a year, I guess. Where we would just do it on Fridays because Joe's work schedule kept him busy during the rest of the week, and then it was time for me just to kind of do my own platform thing, and then the time just came right to start doing it full time. Expanded the show to 2 hours with a call-in show on the second hour, and basically we just cover the topics of the day, and I tend to. My blood pressure tends to get up every now and then about topics that drive me nuts. But other than that, it's a fun show. We just try to cover the stuff that no one else is really talking about,
Yeah, oh no, you guys do really great. You put people to think as well. Very important this. You say a lot, no sauce, no sauce, but I get it. I mean, it's important that people, you guys are very much on the news as well. And let me say hi to Matrix. Thank you for your donation. He says hi to you guys, and great to see you here. Hi, Neo, good to see you too. And Cat Spot and Neo's going to be on later as well. Hi, Yolanda. And so, yeah, I was watching you guys. Yesterday was quite a bit heated, I guess, because you guys, you especially, Abe, are quite fanatic when it comes to certain stuff that you're pissed off with, and makes me laugh. And yeah, I mean, really, I always think it doesn't matter. There's people that have like, like flat earther. I don't give a shit if it's square, flat, or hard formed. I mean, at the end of the day, we're still on the surface. I'm not going to make fuss about it because, there will always be people that have a different mindset and different opinion. But I do have a question for you guys. What is this?
I can't really see it. It looks
know
like a
what it
little
is.
mini handgun or something.
It's
Old style
that's a lighter.
It's a
lighter?
weapon of mass destruction.
Nice.
Yeah,
Burn them all.
yeah,
A
exactly.
weapon of mass destruction. I figured, we should put them all to fire because seriously, I'm so done with that stuff. And well, just to indicate that you guys, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world, we're all in that same boat with, crap and politics and,
Yeah.
a deep state and, well, whatever we want to call it. But I was watching this a segment tonight about, it was on Steve Crowder. They were quite funny. It was about masks and stuff. And all of a sudden it hit me. I was like, weapons of mass destruction. And I thought, oh, I've got a t-shirt quote. So yeah, definitely going to do something with that. And I figured I'm going to test it out first.
So you guys
like
have
it.
had no shortage of issues that we have seen come over here over the last 10 years, and it's really interesting to talk to people who have different perspectives, who have seen the same things that now we're seeing happen here, and those of us who are trying to raise the red flag about. A lot of you guys have seen the same kind of policies and the same kind of political correctness and narratives being pushed on your throats too. So it's really interesting to hear how you guys have had to deal with this as well. You guys are the mandates and the lockdowns still full force over there for you guys?
Well, we have curfews actually, and a judge put down the curfew, said it was illegal, but then they went to higher court, the government that was supposed to step down, remember that one, they actually went to higher court. Apparently they have a say. And so now we're going to have this curfew until the 20th of March, and the 17th of March, we have our elections. So obviously our Trump is, well, obviously everybody's going to vote for him. Everybody is conservative, but all they do is bashing in the news, just like they do with Trump. And usually it would be everything that's in America usually comes a year later here, all those ugly trends, also the good ones. But now everything is in sync, except for that you guys, I think you have some states already that's going to get rid of the masks.
Yeah. Texas now, Florida, I think a lot of the states have finally pulled back and are we all know what it's about. We all know that they're using this just to control us, and it's it's shocking to me just to see how many people fell for it, though. I mean, there are still people that are just it's become a fashion statement, I guess, or something, and they're just going to continue to wear them for the rest of their lives. I don't know. It's amazing to watch how many people just do what they're told on that front. You know what I mean?
I'm flabbergasted that also happens here. People, they're either very asleep or very awake. And so we had, like last week, they had a house party in the middle of the street that went on in the park. And this is like, I live in Amsterdam, which is like New York kind of mayor. Yeah. So she decided to close the park so nobody can go in anymore. Then on top of that, we have the police against us, unfortunately. So they come out with water cannons and everything as soon as there's a protest, even though it's peaceful. There's even people with the American flag, which is really cool. And but it's hard because we do not have weapons. We do not have the police with us that they just fight us on every corner. Then we have a smaller country. I mean, we fit like 4 times in Florida, so we cannot even cross borders. And now they want to go with the vaccine passport.
Oh,
it
wow.
starts with suggestions, you know how that goes, and then all of a sudden it has to be a fact, because and they say, oh, it's still free will, But if you do not have the vaccine, well, then you cannot go into shopping, you cannot have a job, you cannot have nothing. So pretty much they're going to force you. However, well, I still have kind of good hope because, always staying positive. Otherwise, what's the point? And
Yeah.
besides, like I said, we don't have weapons, so we're sitting ducks anyway. And we may
We
as well.
have weapons, and we feel like sitting ducks too. Is the amount of control that they have over us is it should scare everybody, and anyone who's on any political spectrum should objectively be able to see that they're using Marxist plan and color revolution style tactics all around the world. And
Oh yeah.
I can't blame the world for being upset with America for what we've done to the world over the past 20 to 50 years with
Oh,
certain
yeah.
actions and the way that we've treated the world. I can't blame them for kind of wanting to just laugh and watch as it happens here. But I think there's a lot of people in the world that actually get it and are like, you know what, if this continues to happen in America, it's going to continue to push around the world.
Well, let's face it, of course, at those times with the wars with Bush and all that, everybody was pissed off because, we get the influx of all these refugees. Well, we're not waiting for that. Then on top of that, obviously, we're always with the shit. But now, with this great awakening, everybody in America or abroad, everybody that woke up, we know now we were all victims of that same, deep state. So if I'm thinking about it, the biggest victims of all, and yeah, people are sometimes shocked that I say that, but I do believe the biggest victims of all are the U.S. military and those that were the victims of the U.S. military, which is quite weird to say, but you're sent to wars that under pretenses of fighting for your freedom, well, actually you were really fighting for some pipeline or whatever it is. And on top of that, the military comes home with their PTSD and with all that, and then you realize when you wake up you've been doing all that with the wrong reasons. I mean, that must be a shock like I cannot believe. On top of that, you guys are treated as veterans like horrific, when you came back. And I've been doing some shows about PTSD as well and stuff because I do a lot of health and healing stuff, and I love to help with that because it's so sad. And at the same time, there's the other side of the coin where there's all these refugees and people, and okay, finally they find their home, etc. But their whole countries are destroyed.
Yeah.
So you've got these two used to be enemies that are in fact the biggest, for me, the biggest deep state victims that you can think about. And and that is because it's shocking. I cannot even imagine what it must be like when when you arrive home and then you wake up, and some even woke up like in the middle of these wars thinking, wait a minute, what we're doing here.
That's
And
what happened to me when I was in Peru. I mean, we were there, counter drug ops, but it wasn't quite, the wars that we've seen in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's nowhere near the same what those guys went through. But at the same time, you see how the military is being used and not there for the cause that we're saying we're there for. We were there in theory to protect the villagers, and what we were doing is basically helping the CIA move drugs around South America.
yeah,
So I mean, it is frustrating, and it's like, I gave I signed a dotted line that could potentially give my life for what now here. And so there's a lot of veterans that come back and have to deal with the reality of that. I mean, in the end, you can always find positive in everything you do, and you always can leave a positive impression. And the story that never gets told about the U.S. military is the positive impressions and the positive change that they have done around the world in very tough and impossible situations. And that it's a hard reality to realize that all of the wars that we have ever been involved with are manipulations by big bankers for power, control, and consolidating power.
Yeah, and meanwhile, our military went to, the Kosovo stuff under the peacekeeping. Meanwhile, raping and doing all sorts of things. So, it really doesn't matter. It's I mean, it's one clusterfuck, really. I mean, if you think about it, so it was time for us all to wake up, and I do believe that now many people obviously don't have that, anger anymore towards Americans. At the time, it was because that went two ways, and because until you don't wake up, ignorance, well, wasn't bliss. Because it wasn't. But at the same time, now that we all came together, and this is also why I started my channel, right? Because and I did discover there are quite a lot of differences still between Americans and Europeans, since
Yeah.
we're all Western, but still, I
Yeah, there
didn't.
are a lot of differences. Yeah, I mean, we are definitely of different breed. You realize that when you talk to other people around the world. I mean, there's a lot more. Uh, I don't know. It appears to me that there's a lot more like-minded thinkers
Yeah.
around around your area. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just making an
No,
assumption.
that's true. I mean, but well, I mean, we're all awake, and so we're all for the same cause. Everybody is conservative, obviously, and patriot. They're all for the big boss. But and we understand very well it's America first, because if not there, they cannot. I think you have to work your way back to where it all started, right? Which is
Yeah.
then in Europe. So but we all need to be in this together and unite in that sense. And many say, oh yeah, what is this, a new world order? No, we're here to fight together for the same cause. We all want to keep our countries, we all want to keep our cultures. Well, that's starting to fade a bit over here with all these.
I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. So but at the same time, for you guys, same story, right, with the border.
Yeah, I mean, you guys made some really great points there. I wanted to, one of the things, obviously, first and foremost, if America falls, the world falls. So that, that's huge. That's important. But I think that's, you guys kind of kept reminding me of the same thing about kind of why we do our show, is because first and foremost, we're in a war. If anybody hasn't realized yet, I mean, we're in a huge war, and this war is not only here in the United States, but it is literally worldwide. And so there's going to be days when you're going to come on our show and we're going to challenge you. And there's a reason why we're challenging you.
Yes.
We need to have thick skin. We need to be able to take criticism. We need to be able to call people out and say, no, you were wrong on this. Why, or whatever. Like, we need that kind of mentality. And all this stuff that you guys are talking about is exactly why our show is called Uncensored, and exactly why we do what we do, is because we realize that in the grand scheme of things, you can tell people however you want to tell them. But if you're uncensored and you're just telling it like it is, and it just flows off the top of your mind, that is truly how you get a message across, in my opinion. And I think in Abe's opinion as well. That's why we do the way we do.
I find it incredibly refreshing, because many are very scripted and this and that, and like polite, because I may lose some followers. I don't give a shit about the followers. We're here to say the truth, and you have to indeed have thick skin, because if you don't, how you gonna, you don't have to fight about it, but it's not like, we're not a bunch of toddlers. And I do believe that we can have different opinions, but at the end of the day, we're all fighting for the same cause,
Yep.
no matter what country you are in. And I do believe
Absolutely.
you guys do an awesome job, because I may not always, or I may have, it's not like, because you said yesterday some things and I'm like, well, obviously there are not certainties, but I believe I lean more towards this or that. That doesn't mean there's a certainty to anything.
Sure.
Let's face it, there isn't, but I do believe it's great to open discussions, and you guys do that perfectly, and I love it. I mean, to me, it's refreshing to see, especially, maybe it's because you're a veteran, right?
Yeah.
Abe? And I guess I see that a lot with, and I know a lot of veterans and military guys, and they are, not afraid to speak out for what they think, because after all, they've been there, they've done the real fighting. So the fighting with our mouth is nothing compared to that. But We cannot like be all sensitive and feeling like kind of thing. I don't have that at all. I'm not easily offended because,
No.
well,
Yeah,
it's,
and you see those people though that are like, "Oh, that's it. I'm out of here. I'm not watching anymore." I
yes,
mean, honestly, you shouldn't be watching in the first place. I mean, to tell you the truth, because if you're going to get offended by one thing that someone says, if you're going to go to another show and guess what? You're going to have a difference in opinion there. So you're going to stop watching them too. And you're going to go to another show and the same thing's going to happen. Guys,
yeah.
this is what it's all about is
Well, not
creating
only.
dialogue and creating open conversations with people.
Yeah, well, not only you also get sort of echo chamber if we all agree, and
Yeah.
that's not the point, right? We just have to address those things that are important to address and to,
Yeah.
and yes, sauce is very important, but these days, that's kind of difficult until you don't have like official documents in front of your nose, which we don't get. But it's kind of a calculation kind of thing, with our favorite Anon, and we research and we do our things, but at the end of the day we cannot predict anything. And why not? If we could, the enemy can. So that wouldn't be smart, would it?
Yeah, I approach everything as everything I think I know is a lie, and I
Yeah,
start from there. And if you just allow yourself to live in that world that you can think what's going on in the world, and even your wildest expectations of what is real is very hard for anybody to really know. I always ask the question, what is reality? And some people will just look at you like, what do you mean, what is reality? They give you like the
yes.
Webster definition of what is reality. But then you ask other people, like I'll ask you, Keystone, Patricia, what is reality? Who defines reality?
Nobody. Actually, what's reality today can be non-reality tomorrow and vice versa. So, because now these days, everything, like the whole world is upside down, right? What is left is right, what is up is down. And the only way to make sense out of it is to constantly question, to constantly, be on top of everything that's going on. Now, I do see now over the years, because I started with that first drop, and I did my relentless research and all that. I don't do that anymore, because I do believe that now is also the time for people to work on themselves. You
Yeah.
see a lot of people being blackpilled now. They lose hope because of whatever is going on. And I'm thinking, wait, everybody's been so focused on all this news, all this politics, and don't provoke him, Alara. I'm seeing it, but and everybody is a bit like depressed and red and black pilled because of what happened. But what did we expect? We that like it's been said, you have to show them. I'm actually honestly very surprised. Like 3 years ago, I thought if this doesn't wake people up, then I don't know. Well,
Right.
today I'm still saying the same thing, and I'm
Yeah.
like flabbergasted. There's people still so in a cognitive dissonance. It's
Yeah.
amazing,
It's
But
very
those
hard to break. It's their whole lives that have been their realities have been created for them. So it's very hard to put yourself outside of a box and realize that, think about it. It's called programming for a reason. I love that statement. And that's the reality of everything that we see in our world today. And it's, I love having speculative discussions about all kinds of things. I just have a really dialed in bullshit detector that I can see through a lot of stuff. And I think that's why a lot of people have earned trust with people that way, because I love to speculate. I love to talk about what might be, but I don't think it's fair for anybody to place it in the context of this is the way it is. And because you don't believe it, I just need to convince you further. I think we can, like you said, agree to disagree at some point that there's more out there about what we understand about how the universe works and the interactions between humans and different dimensions and things like that. The reality of what it actually is, I don't think humankind can comprehend in our minds what it actually is.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, we're doing quite well after these 4 years of battling together. Even if, I mean, 4 years ago, we would have beaten each other's skulls in, right, for a different opinion because, blah, blah, blah. But we matured. And now we know, as long as the goal is constant focus, the constant focus, and even if people do not agree, whatever, come back to the goal, because that's the only way how we can win this battle against this worldwide war that we have going on, although coverted, but still, right?
Yeah.
The work is super important, and you guys brought up again some great points, and I hate to like just kind of reiterate what you're saying, but it's a great conversation. But part of this whole thing, like you said, is you have to show them, right? And when you say that, that doesn't mean us. Okay, we've already seen it. We're awake. Okay, we're talking about the people who aren't awake. That's what a lot of this is that's going on right now. And of course, to try to heal the divide, to try to reverse everything that the cabal or NWO or whoever you want to say has been trying to do to us for decades, forever.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such a big deal that us and everyone coming together, being in the same path, leading forward. That is why it's so important on what all of us do. The three of us, especially, is super important to have these conversations.
Absolutely. I do believe that there should be more people like you guys, because, people tend to, shy away from like hardcore discussions, because, oh, what's going to happen? But nothing is going to happen. You can agree or you can disagree, but, you don't have to hate each other for it. It just can be on one topic, and all other topics you agree. But, in that sense, people can still be very much asleep and in their little bubble, and we need to open up in that sense, and try to understand each other, and get yourself into the shoes of the other. And it's not easy, because I obviously encountered a lot that kind of differences we have with Americans, and the way that we think. And there's a very sneaky thing going on that the deep state does, for example. Like, you guys back the blue. Here it is, we hate the blue because they're not from us, they're from the EU, right? So you see how they make this little difference. Now with a lockdown here, it's the churches are open and that, but the bars are not. But for us, the churches open means the mosques are open. And here it's not much like in the US, where people go to church. The religion is much more something that you keep kind of to yourself. It's a private thing. It's not like everybody wants to know your religion, whatever, whether you're Christian or not. But and so people rather keep that home. And for us, then the church is not that important anymore. But then they get angry because the restaurants are not open. But this is a little cultural difference. But the concept is the same, because they are taking our traditions away, just like they take your traditions away.
Yeah.
And we're all conservatives, we're all patriots. We have just different kind of slight different traditions, and but the concept is the same, right?
Yeah, I mean, the fight for humanity is something that I think has been in existence since the foundation of humanity. Let's be real about it. So has the requirement of people to control others. It's been around. There's everybody knows, if you look at it, history. I love studying history. I love studying how history seems to cycle itself throughout time, and you can look at through trends throughout history. Go back to Jesus, the ultimate rebel, taking on the pagans and the beliefs of a society that was more about enslaving people. I mean, that fight is what we're seeing today. That fight will probably continue to go on through humanity. Losing hope in that fight only means that your spirit is weak, and you need to focus on, like you said, fixing that spirit, fixing yourself, making sure that you're understanding our role on this planet isn't to step on the neck of others, but to try to lift others up. You know what I'm saying? That idea is universal throughout societies, no matter what color, race, religion, or creed. It is manipulated by the powers that be to try to pit us against each other. If we can just get to that foundation, we're building on something beautiful here, and that is the foundation of what we're all about. And I think it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah, because what we're really doing is fighting all for our own traditions, for our own countries, and for our own, um, freedom, really. And there we can actually unite. We can be one big power worldwide, and you can see it all over the place, and obviously the American flag has become a bit of a symbol to that. And T uh you know
Mhm.
he became like a symbol to that freedom of the world. And we need him as much as you guys do.
Who's your Trump? You said you had a Trump that might be running here in March.
Well, for me, is that's yeah, he's called Thierry Baudet, and he's the
Say
one
it again,
that's
please.
Thierry Baudet.
Thierry
Thierry.
Baudet.
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
a French name, but he's going to against the establishment. He's the one that called them out. He always calls them the cartel.
He's
And
right.
yeah, he always calls them the cartel and all that, but he's been bashed in the news constantly. He's been like picked on with every little thing. The news is all over him. It's exactly the same, as in your country. So and then now people are trying to push like, oh, don't vote at all because it's all of the same side of the coin. And I'm like, I don't know, I'd rather vote and then risk that my vote goes, because that's what we have, right? Your vote goes automatically to the biggest um, party that is chosen.
Oh,
So
okay.
if you do not vote, so you do not want that, right? And we have obviously voter ID and all that, but we also have the same vote counting system.
Yeah, you
So
have Dominion systems there too, and versions of them.
so the ID doesn't matter. I mean, we get it all. We have no mail in ballots. We don't. We have to go there with our passport. I have to show it's me and all that, and then you fill it out and you throw it in. But I'm always like, yeah, okay, but who's counting, right?
Do you think the when we exposed, I don't want to say we, but when it was exposed that that Dominion and what happened with voting machines was using a version of like ranked choice voting and vote manipulations based on percentages of candidates and fractional voting. Did that message get around the world? Do you think the mainstream media covered that message enough that it was that it woke anybody up possibly? I have
Hell
hope
no.
here.
No, that's us that needs to do that, because just like you guys, you don't stand a chance with the media. Just don't. I mean, for us, it's obviously our deep state prime minister. Yeah, the first thing he did congratulate Biden even before it was like official. So uh, and you can see that because I'm surrounded by deep state countries. So, and we don't have like, a Trump that is, and a military and all that fight with us. We have to do this ourselves. And so the media is, just an extension arm of the deep state here, same as you guys. And so, no, it's us. And, I remember 4 years ago when it all started on the chance we were there with so many people internationally, and we all woke up together, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And yeah, people in Germany, people in Holland, in France, they are awake, but we have a little bit more to fight against, since not having weapons, having police against us, so it's a bit of a harder fight, but being all together, together with the Americans and all that, that gives us hope too. So, the moment that America, for example, is back on track, we obviously hope Americans will help us too, getting our countries back on track. And I guess that's how it works. We're all in this together, and we're all in the same boat. And for me, the first thing for me what was important is waking up as many Americans as I could, because it started all there, right? The moment that he was elected,
Yeah.
the boss. And so for me, it was very important to get people awake. And as a foreigner, it was quite easy to do, because people cannot associate you. They're like, what do you know about our politics? What do you care? And then, I would play all innocent and say, well, we from here across the pond, we see that he's quite a good guy, right? And
Yeah.
we did wake up a lot of people, in the US. But the same for us here. waking up our own fellow countrymen is not easy because they think you're biased, you know?
Yeah,
So,
it's hard. Like, it's like you says, you got to show them. You
yeah.
know, yeah, you really have to. People don't learn lessons by being told, and I'm a guilty of it as too. I'm very stubborn when it comes to doing my own research and not allowing others to influence me. So I get that, but there's a certain point at which reality becomes right in front of your face, and you have to start facing that reality and not live in a world that you just want to live in because you want it to be that way. I think there's a lot of that out there in the world where they just would rather live in a world that they're comfortable with than put in any kind of uncomfortable scenarios.
Well, yeah, because they don't realize that they're comfortable won't take long at this rate, right? I mean,
Yeah.
who thought we would end up in this situation here where people are still asleep? I mean, that's mind blowing if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
So I want to ask you both, like, what was your awakening kind of like? When did that happen?
Well, you know what? I'll let Abe tell his first, and then I'll tell mine. You go
So,
first.
I mean, really it was, pretty much my whole life. All of us are kind of rebel minded thinkers. Probably the first time where I started to realize things weren't right was in CCD, and we went to Catholic schools as kids. And I basically got kicked out of CCD because I was asking too many questions and proving contradictions. I went there to study the Bible and learn about Jesus, and they didn't want to do that. They wanted to create narratives of things that I just didn't make sense to me. So that was my first real experience of feeling like they didn't want, they literally kicked me out because I was asking too many questions and proving the teacher wrong so many times that she was just becoming so impossible for her to do the class. They were like, get rid of them. But after that, you get back from the Marine Corps and it does change you. You come back into the civilian world and things are very much different, but things were very different beyond anything I could ever really understand in society. Society had changed so much. People were so manipulated into this sexualized, live free, die hard culture of no morals and acceptance of any kind of behavior and very selfish people. And something was very odd. So I just started to look into, what was happening on that front and start to studying how societies are manipulated and stuff. So that kind of started there. And then of course, the usual string of events since then that all of us have witnessed, whether it be from the original Iraq War, the first bombings of the federal building in Oklahoma or Ruby Ridge, the Patriots over at I can't remember their names right now. Lloyd, was it Lloyd? No, all the times of government incursions into freedoms. I witnessed incursions into freedoms on my own as I watched when I went to the corporate world after I got back, and watched them as they put sniffers into all of the switches for phones, and I knew that was an NSA program that they were putting into switches, and I basically became a point where you realize that if they're going after the Fourth Amendment of illegal search and seizures, then the third and the second, the first aren't far behind. And so all of those string of events of all of those things that had happened over time, including 9/11 and Las Vegas, all of these things are just, you can see anyone with a brain just looks at them objectively. You see that things just don't make sense in them. And you realize that the reality that we live in is manipulated. So, I would say like a string of events throughout life that brought me to where I'm at now. I would think that that's common for a lot of people too.
Yeah, that was the same for me also. I guess from the generation, I don't know how old you are, but
48.
What?
48.
Okay, so yeah, you're 4 years younger than me.
Gotcha.
So we come from that generation where we used to have the telephone numbers in our head, right?
Right.
And stuff. So and go play outside and do that rough stuff. And then now you see, I can imagine, especially if you get out of military and then all of a sudden you see all that and you're like, gee, everybody's so lazy, because everything is just handed to them. And
Yeah.
obviously that was on purpose,
Yep.
it was made that way to program. So, and what about you, Joe?
Yeah, so obviously, that's why I wanted him to tell his first, because he went to CCD, and then 2 years later, my mom sent me to go to CCD, and my brother's saying, make sure you ask questions. So, immediately, Abe, ever since I was little, I mean, I always looked up to him, of course, because he was my big brother, but he always kind of guided me along. But I fell asleep for a very long time. I was even to the point to where I was just completely apolitical, and I really just didn't care about anything. I would say I was black pilled for sure. Up until the point where I think, September 11th happened. I lived in Illinois, and I have two major airports here, O'Hare and Midway Airport. And the next day after 9/11, when I went out to maybe a couple days after or something, but when I went out and I was driving around and there was no airplanes at all flying around, after you're used to hearing just, one after another,
Yeah,
it kind of hit me. Like I was just driving around by myself, just like, wow, this is so weird. And I think that's kind of what got the start of my not being black pilled anymore to something is really going on.
yeah,
And then I pretty much woke up because of my brother, to tell you the truth, because when he started doing his shows on Patriot Soapbox, he literally just dropped me a link one time on Facebook. He's like, here, watch this. And I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And then as soon as I saw the show, I was like, holy shit, this everything that I kind of was thinking about. There's literally people on here talking about everything I've been kind of thinking about.
yeah.
And then, of course, they were huge back then into doing digs on Q. And as soon as I saw Q, I actually
17.
latched. Yeah, I latched onto Q. And this, now I didn't even vote. I wasn't even like a Trump supporter or anything. I latched onto Q, and then I started just researching Q only, and then finding the finding all the bullshit that they were saying about Trump, and
Right.
finding how all the false narratives that they were pushing, finding out how bad MSM was. I mean, I just started kind of finding out all this stuff. So my awakening really over the last couple years is really when it happened, to tell you the truth. And it's been, since then, it's been an amazing journey to get to here, to be talking to you.
Well, yeah, I know that for many, many, it was for 9/11. For me, it started a bit kind of like you guys. I was like two parents. The one is like Christian, the other Catholic. And so I went to both churches and was like, wait, they both say different things. What can I do with that? And what's the point? Wait, if there's a God, then shouldn't they be like one and the same? But apparently no. And you're young, right? So you're like, it didn't make sense to me. So obviously I was never religious. I'm spiritual, obviously. I do believe in God, but not kind of the church goer type, because yeah, I learned very early with these different messages that it didn't make sense to me. And then later what really stuck to me was Princess Diana, in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was another thing that I was like, oh no, because obviously we're in Europe, so things are much closer. You hear more of these stories, the royals and all that, and people just follow it. And we have our own royals here, so that's kind of our news. And then you start to think, wait. Things are not adding up here. And we knew already about her stories about complaining about the royals, etc. And then all of a sudden, you know, all these weird mysteries around the death. Obviously, Oklahoma City is another one, the bombing that came here. And well, and let's not forget JFK, right, in this whole thing. And I do believe, although it was subconsciously, many people knew there was a lot that didn't add up.
Sure.
So, and that's why you see, and I don't know if you guys have the same, when you look in your analytics, most people are between about 38 and 70 years old in this great awakening. And
Yeah.
that's because we've been through all these because look what happened in 10 years time. I mean, the world literally changed in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
And then some just went to sleep by going with a TV and not even realizing where they came from. That is another thing that to me, I couldn't fathom. Like, wait, you don't remember that, like, not even a decade ago, you still had all the phone numbers in your head. You still, did this and this and this. And now it's normal to look at complete nude stuff on TV like it's nothing, right?
Yeah.
And it's like boom, I don't know how they did it, but it was brilliantly done. Otherwise, how else could you get people so, you
Well,
know
decades of studying and planning and using tactics employed by world renowned manipulators like Marx and Lenin and who was Hitler's right side man, Himmler.
um
Uh,
um um, um
I think Himmler was one of the more
oh yeah, Himmler and Brown, no, Werner von Braun.
yeah, the ones that were the ones that were the really behind Hitler. Hitler was just kind of
Yeah,
I think Hitler was more of a puppet than most people realize. I think the
yeah,
powers behind him are similar to Biden. He got to put in place
yeah,
and maybe radicalized himself into a belief. That's for sure. I mean, you're not talking about a sane man, so right? But
yeah.
the history of
Google.
of how society has been manipulated has been studied by people for so long, and then our CIA basically weaponized it and started using it all around the world, and that's when it became issues. When we started to do regime change through the CIA was a long time ago, and that's really where I think this country got off track, and that's why the CIA and the FBI need to be gotten rid of forever, and just use the old style techniques that we need to through law enforcement and other ways to handle things. These agencies have done more destruction to the world and our
Yeah.
population than anybody that in human existence, probably.
Gosh, you're the first one saying that because I never dare to say it because I'm not American, so I can't, because then, people get offended. But Americans are the most programmed of all.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned in the past year. And I was like, holy crap, that I cannot believe it. And, but then it's like, oh yeah, but we're the best and we're the biggest and we're the bravest and we're this. And I'm like, you have no clue
No,
because
they don't. We don't. We're very spoiled. We're
it's,
very proud of ourselves. Everybody is very proud people,
yeah,
and everybody that's around now has basically had a golden spoon their whole freaking life. They never
yeah,
had to really struggle. I guarantee you, you have seen more struggle than 95% of Americans just by being where you live, and people don't. People have lost the ability to put themselves in other people's shoes. I used
yeah.
to think that was just a
And
natural attribute to everybody, and
this
now
is
it seems
why I
like
love.
that is not a common thing anymore. To be able to think what it would be like to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. It's really weird to see how society has moved on that front.
The only people I can talk about this subject with is military people, and they're the only ones that immediately get what I'm trying to say, because it's not about offending or whatever. It's not a freaking competition who's more programmed to who's less.
Right?
It's about understanding what's going on, because when you understand it, you can actually change it, and when you can change it, you can faster move on and change everything, right? And I see things that, and I'm like, how am I going to address this, as not being an American, because, I might get people that are offended
Oh, we're
because,
very easily offended.
oh,
We
gosh,
are the
yeah.
most easily offended being on the planet. There is no doubt about that. I can find a reason to get offended for any fucking reason. I don't like that plant behind you. It's just so tacky. It's just so that way I feel better about myself when I point fingers at everyone else.
Oh man, the times I've heard like, oh, if it wasn't for us, you would be speaking German. And I'm like, serious? I mean, besides, it was the Canadian that freed us, so no doubt. And
Know
but
your facts, right?
yeah, know your facts, right? And but no, it's not about that, because I don't want to fight about it. I just want to make them aware, and it's so hard
Yeah.
because it's immediately I get this attack, right? And I'm like, whoa, I'm just trying to. And so I've got a whole slew of stuff to break down, and I don't know how to do it, and I haven't dared myself to it yet, to wake up Americans to certain things that we see across the pond. And it's not easy. I'm still not daring to go there because
You're better off not. You're better off not, because your message is gonna get lost in the fold. The best thing you can do is just to drop those little nuggets like you've been doing. You've done a great job of it. I used to watch you all the time back in the day when I was on Twitter. And
yeah,
you know, when I had social media, I could watch you, and you know, it you know what it's like. You just, we are so hard headed that we have it all figured out that you can't possibly tell people. I've been there personally, so I get that. It's
yeah.
it's very hard to break that programming that
Well,
is, society has pitted us against every form. If you're off white color, then we're being pitted against each other. If you're German versus Italian, then we've been pitted against each other. It's like they've broken us down into shells of what we used to be. It's really sad.
yeah, we don't have that here because remember, and this is another thing that comes to play. You guys are surrounded just by Canada, sort of as a different country. We are surrounded by so many countries where we go on holiday, right? So you adapt to their culture, their foods, their everything that they do. And so we learn to adapt very quickly because you have to, right?
Yeah.
Because what for you is another state is for us a different country, right? And so that comes into play. Another thing is that many Americans haven't been overseas. So they, I remember there was a time that people thought we all speak French here and we were third world countries, totally not knowing anything about
Yeah.
things unless they have traveled. And so it's not easy to obviously talk about these things because, gosh, every single time it's like, oh, offended, and I'm like, oh, shit,
I,
but
I don't know. There's some states that you feel like you're going to a different world. I'll tell you that much. That for sure. I mean, you can drive through California and feel like you're in a different third world country.
yeah, but
So
it's still
there's
America though. Yeah, right.
no, right. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yes. I'm just saying, I mean, it definitely has that feel to it, but no.
Yeah.
But that's part of it, I guess. Definitely.
Yeah, and I mean, gosh, I have all sympathy for Americans because they have very good qualities too. They're very competitive, but then they go overboard with it because they are competitive everywhere, and it's like some things you have to unite instead of being competitive, right? And
Yeah.
so there are many things, but we all have them. Obviously, we all have our cultures and our ways, and it's just because America has always been there, that top of the world country, and so it's very difficult sometimes to say, okay, wait, so how is it in your country? Many are just not even interested because it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever, because this is America and everything happens here. It's how many times over the past 4 years, well, this is not your war. Do you have any idea where this
If
whole
you
deep
really knew. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And it's, that's why it's fun, because
yeah. And
um
we look at it the same way, like, okay, we
yeah,
know they're like that, but I mean, we still in here for us too, right? So
yeah.
you just go with the flow, and that's all you can do, really.
Yep, and it's, the fun of it is being able to try to continue to have that discussions, and we've fallen so far, like you're saying, that we can't even talk without being at each other's throats, and it shows how purposeful it's been, and it's very frustrating to try to deal with. But the good thing is that there are a lot of people that are on all sides of the aisle
Yeah,
that see what's happening in front of them. They may not choose to want to live in that reality, but they see what's happening. So, more and more is being exposed. And that's what I love about everything that's happening right now. It doesn't matter if it's us on our channels or anything. For somehow, some way, there's huge changes happening in
yeah,
humanity right now. It's just an awesome time to be alive and watch it, and be a part of it.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's not only within politics, whatever, but even in humanity itself, right? You see these changes because people are starting to, being more open, being more flexible with each other, and trying to understand because they start to see the bigger picture. And always keep the big picture in mind is what I say, because that's what keeps you grounded, right? That keeps you
Absolutely.
also from these petty arguments that you have. If you don't keep the big picture in mind, uh, then all is lost, really,
Yeah.
right?
And that's really what
Absolutely.
the foundation of what we've been trying to do, right? Is try to stick together as much in the fight for truth, right?
Absolutely. And you guys do such an awesome job. I just love it, and definitely gonna watch much more often because it's obviously a big fat boys club where you guys are, but I for me it's so refreshing because here it's quite normal. We can have fights with each other and it can be very heated, but nobody takes it personal because
Yeah.
it's about, well, I guess, and like you said before, like, because we have a bit different history. I have like
Mhm.
both grandparents, both sides. My father's from Indonesia, by the way, so they were in the Japanese camps. And then here there was the war over here. So, and I heard all the stories. It's just one generation ago. So for us,
Sure.
it's so fresh, it's so new, and all that. So when 9/11 happened, for us it was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
something happened in America that was quite unique. And then we see the response from Americans, and we're all like, whoa, 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 it's not a world war. Of course, it's sad and it's bad and all that, but this happens for decades here. And
Yeah.
so we got a bit of a clash there, but ultimately we all need to understand each other. So eventually I was like, yeah, okay, Americans are not used to that, so obviously for them this is a very big deal, you know
Yep.
well, we all have family members that have been in the wars, literally, and not as veterans but as victims, right?
Sure.
So and there is kind of a difference, but at the same time I do believe that at the end of the day we all know, um you know now what we're really fighting against, because it's not anymore about those traditional wars but rather our freaking freedom.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and understanding what really ended World War II, I think is the foundational of what we need to be all talking about throughout the world. And we all talk that the history is written by the victors, but we
Yes.
all believe it in in the tense of that it doesn't challenge how we perceive how it ended.
Yeah.
We don't allow history is written by the victors to manipulate what we perceive happened in World War II.
Well, I
You see what I'm
sometimes
saying?
wonder,
And that's
did it ever end, because
yeah,
it went on covertly, right? In a sense.
exactly. It just changed forms. It became a power struggle behind the scenes through a fight for world power that has been happening since King George and beyond, right?
I would say
It's
since Jesus, since Cain, what was it? Cain and Abel.
yeah,
Actually, that's where it started, right? So
sure. I
if
mean,
Well,
we
you
go
know,
it
back,
was all about infiltration instead of invasion. I mean, and they
yeah,
literally infiltrated every single aspect of our lives. And when I say every single aspect, I mean from to the point they literally own the farm that that we're growing our food on and sending it back to them. You know what I mean? Like
exactly.
everything is owned. And you know this is one of those things that this conversation I'm excited because this is a kind of conversation that everybody needs to be having. But the bigger point is about how do we fix it, right?
Yeah,
And number one, we always talk about trying to get involved in some way, and whether it's sitting in front of a microphone and trying to discuss it, whether like JR, who we just had on the show, who's
yes,
actually running for Congress, these your school board, all these little things that people have been saying and talking about. It's not just to say and talk about.
exactly.
I honestly feel that part of the reason why Trump is not in office right now is because there's too many people that are still not awake and are still not paying attention and are still waiting for that hand me out, like we discussed earlier about people just getting everything that they want. That no, it's time to fight. It's time to
Exactly.
stand up. It's time to actually take some action and do something about it. It is super important. It really
And
is.
this is just brilliantly said, because literally, I believe everything happens for a reason. The fact he's not in office now makes that either people are going to be blackpilled, sit back and wait till he's coming back. Well, it's not going to work like that, just like it won't work for us, right?
Right.
Because from here we can wait for America to be restored to then us being restored. No, I saw even a Brit writing, "Oh, you Americans better stand up because otherwise we." What we? You're in England, do your own shit, just like they do, and just like we have to do. We all have to do our part. And I think what JR is doing there, Majewski, because this is what I wanted to say. He is taking action. He is going to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to be part of that. I'm going to, take my own power in hands and start doing what I need to do. And you guys support JR, because he's doing a good job. There couldn't be more of people like him, other people in other states. And it's not even my country, but seriously, this is what needs to happen. And this is what needs to happen in every single country. And this is what we do here as well. We stand up. We do. Look at Italy. They all stood up at the same time and said, it's enough. We open our restaurants and bars. Do you see any bars and restaurants in Italy closed? It's the only country in the world that actually has all the bars and restaurants open, because collectively, they all decided to open it. What can you do then as a government? Nothing, And so the same for you guys. Obviously have a way bigger country, but way more people, and therefore way more action to be done. And collectively as groups you can do stuff, and we do our own bits, behind
Yeah.
the camera and this. But this is exactly why people need to first, there's a part that needs to wake up. Those that are wake up now start to take action, because we can sit back and rant all day. It's not going to help. So we better educate people and try to wake them up. That's why I went a bit of a different route now too, with more healing, etc. Because there's another thing, people are so much in that victim role still of, oh, what can I do? And oh, I'm sick and blah and depressed. And okay, let's do something about it.
Yeah,
I
and
had a
I'm
long,
so glad that you brought. I'm sorry, real quick. I'm just so glad that you brought up about like your growth, like personal growth, and stuff like that too. Because listen, that's a really important part, and I've seen a lot of, like, especially recently, with a lot of shows and stuff, people talking about their addictions. I've seen you talk about your previous addictions. I've seen people talk about divorce. I've seen people talk about other kinds of addictions.
PTSD.
Yeah, just, I mean, see, that's like, it's not only just about trying to wake people up. It's also to try to be a better person first and foremost,
Yes.
because then that projects to everybody that's around you. And when you have that positive vibe, that, like, okay, so literally when I got off the show with Abe earlier, I had a friend stop by, and my best friend for 15 years, I just got him to vote for Republican for the first time in 15 years.
Wow.
And I got him to switch, and I got him to wake up, but he's still kind of black pilled, right?
Yeah.
And so it's still kind of hard, because I'll be like all positive and like get off the show, and then he stops over and he's like, well, I think this is BS. And I'm like, what do you mean this is BS? And like, so I got to kind of almost rewind, take myself back a little bit, and realize that there's a lot of people out there that just don't have time. And he's one of those guys that doesn't have time to pay attention to this stuff, to do research, to watch shows, and to read news and stuff and try to figure out. But that, my positivity of trying to explain to him about things that are going on, and he's like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. And it only took me 15 minutes to. So my point is that regardless of how hard that this battle is, if you can find I don't know if peace or solace, or if in yourself, that will project outwards, and it will make a big difference when you're trying to red pill somebody or even just talk to them in general. That is a huge part of this movement.
Well, I think it's also the monkey see, monkey do effect, right? So when people are really cranky and depressed and black pilled, and at certain point, you feel that you are miserable. And so you start looking at other people and people that are positive. I was just talking about that this week, right? They try to stay as far away as possible from you. And so what you're going to do, you attract even more negativity, unless you have friends that are actually positive and put it out, and then they start at a certain point, they start thinking like, wait, why are they so positive? Because at the end of the day, if you're not going to stand in your own power, and that's how you take that's how we take our freedoms back, is by standing in our own power, by being sane again. And whether you deal with addiction, whether you deal with, I don't know, divorce, relation problems, PTSD, I've been talking to so many people behind the scenes, well, obviously, especially Americans, and helping them, especially also military people, how to deal with certain things, because I've been through there. I just did my video about transformation. Okay, people think that I just fell out of the sky like this. No, I mean, I worked bloody hard to get where I am now, and I was in a big fat pit hole, right? And in hell. Did I create that myself? Probably, but I climbed out, because you're only your own savior at a certain point, right? And if we don't, so in my case, is like, I need to inspire people and show them what I've been through. And yeah, it's scary, because you don't want to show your ugly sides, but you got to practice what you preach. So I may as well just throw it out there. And once it's out there and people see it, they're like, whoa, wait a minute, there's hope, right? And
Yeah, and if you, if one of the things that I like to talk to younger people about whenever I go to these like protests or little gatherings and stuff like that, I asked this one kid, "Are you sovereign?" And his mind just went, oh, "What?"
what?
So if you can start to have the discussion with people, are you a sovereign citizen of this world? And if you feel like you're being your life is under the control of others, then do you feel like you really are living the life that you want to live? And can you just choose to live your life as a sovereign citizen? And just, if you just take a little tweak the outlook of how you look at it just a little bit, this is what brings us all together, is that we want to be that it's an innate human quality to want to live your life under your control. If we could just all come to that again, the baseline of agreement, this is what it's all about. This is why so many of us from different walks of life are still fighting towards a single direction and a single cause,
Exactly. But the beauty of this movement is also that we obviously, when you see somebody fall, you help them up. You're not going to ridicule them, nothing. Even if they're like negative as can be, the whole reason they're negative is because they're not in a good space. But you still have to help them up, because they are part of this fight too. And we can either do something about it and help them up so they have their own strength again, or we can let them down because, ego and all that shit. No, that doesn't work that way. And everybody grows in different levels, and everybody, even liberals, yes, it's cringy, but you look at that and like, well, in a way, I was there once, sort of. Well, not that level, but still,
you can identify with it.
Yeah. And so, and it's hard, because I try to always train myself with those people, because try to bite my tongue and see if I can actually come from the heart and try to. It is freaking impossible for me.
Well, yeah, when you're trying, well, yeah, well, you're trying to tell, you're literally trying to tell people that everything they've ever been told their entire life is a lie. Yeah. I mean, that's literally what you're telling people.
Yeah.
And that's not easy. And that's, one of the things with my buddy is I didn't give him like a slow pill. Okay. There's a slow pill. There's a red pill. I literally, I just dropped it on him. I was like, boom, here you go. And then I started sending him like the Joe M video, and here, watch the Joe M video. And then he watched that and he was like, wow, and started coming around.
Oh, yeah.
there,
I actually red pilled loads of people with that video from Brad Colangelo, the second American Revolution. It was just
yes,
brilliant. I mean, it's so fast and so like down to the point. He breaks it down so greatly, and it works. But yeah, it's for everybody has their own way of digesting stuff, right? But yeah,
yeah.
the slow one is usually the most difficult one, right?
That's why I threw him right in it.
Oh yeah.
And, so now I'm kind of got to go backwards, right? Because you can't just, throw him in the fire and then say, good luck. Now I have to backtrack with
Yeah, because
everything.
I call that the 5 stages of awakening, like the 5 stages of grief, right? So
Yes.
they become angry at everything that passes. Yeah. And you look at it and you're like, yep, been there.
Oh, and
Right.
then on top of it, so then I finally get him to vote for a Republican after 15 years, and then Trump doesn't get in, and he's like, "Well, what the fuck was the point?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, now I just took another step backwards." So it's truly is worth the fight, because now he just had a baby, and
Oh,
now he's starting, like, he called into our show, which
that
he really
helps.
which he really doesn't. And the first thing he said, do you remember what he said, Abe? When he called into the show, something about God, and that was not.
Yeah.
What's that?
He sees how having a baby changes you, and how it changes your perspective on not necessarily religion but faith.
Yeah, on faith. And that was another thing that he's part Latino, and Latinos are very, very religious, but he got away from that too. So
Yeah.
so when he called in, this was how old is his baby now? 3 months? I should know. But when he called in within the last couple of months, and I heard him say something about, his awakening, and then his baby being born, and realizing that there is literally something that he has to fight for now, right? He's
Right.
got
Yeah,
that
but that's
tangible
it.
thing. And so that awakening, that journey that he's going on, is back asswards because of me, for a reason, because I knew that he could handle the initial boom. And then I knew I was going to have to backtrack. But these are all the little things that we have to think about on a daily basis with everybody that we're trying to help and or red pill, right?
Well, yeah, it's absolutely a job. I mean, I've been doing it for 4 years now, and I'm usually in the U.S. time zone, so I'm in a permanent jet lag. But it's so important to do this, and now I'm doing something that I really love, which is obviously the healing stuff, etc. And I still have my interviews, because it's always good to check in with everybody. Where are we at? And funny enough, we're always at the same point.
Yeah.
Uh,
Except for us
that's
keeping you up late to early in the morning.
Oh, don't. Oh, well, that's normal for me. You know that. And so
Those who know don't sleep anyways.
exactly. And so, and it's not like I have a job. Plus, we cannot go anywhere. So what I'm gonna do, right? And when I can, then I will come to the US and we have a party for once. With all the
Let's
people
do
that
it. That'd be great. I'd love that. I'd
gosh,
love to have an international Patriots party. I definitely want that dude from China or Korea, whatever it was.
who
You remember
I don't
him?
know.
Hold on, let me see if I can find him here real quick. This guy.
China is asshole.
Yes.
Fine.
I
I
would
want to have
love
a beer
to-
with that guy.
Yes. Invite him when we have our Patriot gather, our international Patriot
Oh my
gathering.
God. I want to come to the US in July, but yeah, I need to get the funds and all that because, I don't work. This is what I do. And but definitely I just can't wait to meet everybody. The 6th was also like, oh my God, we cannot even get out of the country anywhere, let alone to America. And but yeah, I can't wait for it because I made so many friends. They're all across the pond. They're not here, so and that's what it is, but it's well worth it because we're all in it together. And it's I mean, I wouldn't have missed it for the world with all the misery combined.
It's been a
Definitely.
blast. It's been a hell of a ride, and all of the things that being a part of all of the events too was just awesome. It was when we first started going to these events, and they were just like local events there was probably 500, 1,000 people show up, maybe, you know, at the local capitol. And then you start going to a little bigger events and a couple thousand, 5,000 show up. Then all of a sudden 10,000 show up. And then before you know it, all of these rallies from all around the world just congregated in one spot. And it was just awesome. It was an example of humanity at its finest. It was the finest day in American history that has been slandered into a mess, but it's been a fun ride, and it's just getting started. If you look at what we're really accomplishing as Americans, this only started in 2010. This is we're only 10 years into this, and it's grown to a point where we had a president in power as part of our movement. We have minority leaders in the House and the Senate as part of our representation. Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows was the right-hand man. He's the darling of what we created in 2010. So this fight is just at its infancy as far as movements go.
Well,
and
now
we're not going to stop.
Now you're moving on to patriots that go into office. So, I mean, how much better can it be, right? It's all part of the process. And yes, we had in the beginning like, a year and then we're done, right?
Yeah. It's all, I just snap a finger and the world's just going to be one big happy place. That's how it's going to happen.
Well, think about it's centuries and centuries like this shit, right? Yeah. And here we are thinking that we can solve it all like that. Well,
I think we all were a little bit too hopeful that we would just come to a precipice of event where one thing would just change the whole world into one big happy place. I think we all had that kind of hope in us. I think a lot of us had the reality that this fight is decades and decades on end. We think about the long term.
Yeah, well, now we have to, adjust our expectations a bit here and there, but it's also good for us, because it makes us also, find new ways. And that, because the fact that you're in it is not like, shit, still not happening. Now I'm giving up. No, you never give up because you're always like, ooh, we're almost there, because every little step is a milestone, right?
Yep.
And so, I definitely see it that way. So we've been on like here for yapping for an hour and a quarter, which I would I would like go on for 3 hours with you guys, but then I would fall asleep. So that's not good. And I so enjoyed this conversation. And where can people find you? I already know, but
that's what's.
Go ahead, Joe.
Let me do this once for you, Abe. You can find us at uncensoredabe.com. And what's great is Al literally built that site. I mean, he built it from the ground up. He put a lot of hard work, a lot of effort in that site. It's got all of our links, all of our shows, everywhere that we can be found. We just started Podbean, and we're gonna be doing the podcasts now. As he throws up his arms.
Radio type, right?
Yeah. Just the not the video, just the radio or the audio. And it's great because, before, when everybody kind of lost YouTubes and everybody was going in different directions, we didn't know like how the heck do you find everybody. And Abe centralized all of our links, everything on there. So please go check out the uncensoredabe.com website. It's got everything you need to know about us. But we do a show basically Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. Central, and it is uncensored, and we are going to challenge you, but I guarantee you're going to enjoy it.
Oh yeah, I do enjoy it. I'm going to throw it in there. You guys are on the D Live, the Twitch, and the YouTube also, right?
Yeah,
YouTube keeps. I've got my second strike on YouTube for content that I put out like 6 months or a year ago. They're hounding me like crazy. So
I've got one now.
Yeah. So
you probably just got a second, by the way.
I thought so.
I'm sick and tired of YouTube. So I'm basically just pushing everybody to the alternate platforms. Jim Watkins from Akun has Tiger Network. You can, if you want to seek the content out at times where it doesn't have to be live, I would say, check out the website, look for Tiger Network, or the website will have the latest feed. You can also get now, I haven't told anybody this yet, but you can get a live feed straight from Cloud Hub on the website too. So you can always just bookmark the website and watch us there too as well.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm still in the swamp here in YouTube. Well, I'm on the live obviously and Twitch now, but yeah, things will change anyway now slowly because we're getting more creative with everything. There's now Voxel too, and there's people inventing all sorts of things. So, and that's a good thing because we become more creative as well. We've
Yeah.
seen when you get nuked everywhere, then eventually we always find each other again, and that's a good thing. So
The
there's
world's greatest scientists and thinkers are always the ones that have been silenced in some way throughout history. Galileo, Schrodinger, you can go all through time, left and right, Jesus, over and over and over. The people who make change are the ones that think outside the box, and that's what I
oh
love
yeah,
about this community, and getting a chance to hang out with people like you all around the world. Thanks a lot for having us. God bless you, and
yeah,
please let's keep let's keep in touch, and let's try to do this again sometime in the future.
yeah, and we'll get the weapon of mass destruction. Yeah.
Love it. Love
Thank
it.
you so much, my mods and everybody in there. I'm sorry I didn't pay much attention to the chat because, I had another chatter here. And I wish you all a great night and peace out.
Much love, everyone.